Hello, vinyl community. So, one of my viewers, Rockchica, who also does videos, and I recommend checking out our channel, she asked me what I thought about the service Better Records. And for those that are not in North America or outside of the United States, Better Records is kind of an interesting company. Their business model is to go out and buy as many copies of popular records out there, so like standards and classic rock like Steely Dan, Led Zeppelin, Moody Blues, Beatles, and so on and so forth. They do have jazz, they do have classical, and what they do is they take all these records and they do shootout comparisons amongst different editions. And if you go through their website like I'm showing you here, they have what they call a hot stamper or super hot stamper. So what does this mean? Well, there is some degree of truth in what they're trying to hype on their website. So in terms of the vinyl medium, there's so much variability in pressing to pressing. And you know, a lot of collectors out there, they are after very early runs on stampers, so they're looking for the 1A, 1B stampers, which is usually the earliest indication. But is the 1A stamper always the best? Not always so. So the stamper itself is a medium. It's typically made of hardened nickel, and you know, it degrades over time. And a lot of modern audiophile pressings, you know, they try and limit the stamper runs to 1,000 because after 1,000 you do get degradation, and it does impact the sound quality. Now, in the old days, with the big pressing plants like Columbia, who had their own 1,000 pressing plant, I mean, they would run until the stampers broke, and you know, so you know, having that 1A stamper is not always the best. So that's where, you know, Tom Port, who is the owner of Better Records, really makes his business. So, you know, you asked me if I would go for one of these. Well, you know, there are so many variables into what makes a good press, and you know, that was just one of them, the stampers. And you know, you read a lot of articles, they'll say, hey, time of day when the presses are operating are extremely critical. And then you got to look at other things like, okay, who was the mastering engineer? So, you know, I personally like audiophile pressings because, you know, an audiophile company like, say, MoFi or Analog Productions or Music Matters, for example, what they do is, you know, they get time of a well-regarded mastering engineer, and they really give that mastering engineer the latitude to try and draw out what they can from the recording. And, you know, this whole thing about what sounds better, it's extremely subjective. It's really, you know, what your preference is. So Better Records, I mean, this is really Tom Port and his staff. He claims to have a staff of 6. That's a subjective opinion of what he thinks is the best. Now, not everyone agrees with him. I do have some problems with his website. You know, I think he would draw a better customer base if he didn't have such a negative attitude towards audiophile pressings, because here I'm scanning through here, and you know, it's audiophile pressing after audiophile pressing, and he just trashes them. He claims that they're the worst things ever. And I think, you know, when you put a negative bit in somebody's head, are they going to be apt to purchase your product? No. So I think the folks that, you know, can stay away from it politically are making a smart move. But I think that he is really killing off part of his business by doing this. I mean, it's not to say that he probably has some really good records out there, and you know, the time of doing the shootouts, doing the comparisons, yeah, these are all dollar records, or you know, very cheap records that he's picking up. But you know, he does put some time into them, so you know, he charges a premium, and I don't think I would pay that much for a record. I mean, I have a lot of decent pressings that I'm happy with, and some of these things that you pick up, it may not be light years ahead of what you already got. I mean, my preference is to figure out, okay, what is my own hot stamper? So if you dig around on sites like this, like the Steve Hoffman website, and Steve Hoffman is a well-regarded mastering engineer. You have all kinds of fans that have already done some of these shootouts themselves. So I recommend like poking around on here and finding out from other fans, I mean, what they think is the best pressing. And then of course there's YouTube, and I mean there's a number of channels that do comparisons, like Ron Beaudry in Canada, for example. His channel is good because he's gone through like several different pressings, and he'll tell you his opinion of what he thinks is the best. And again, it's just opinion, and you got to figure out what kind of sound you like. I mean, do you like something that is more detailed but considered more bright? Do you like something that's more soft sounding? It's a lot like audio equipment too, because audio equipment is the same way. I mean, I tried to buy a phono cartridge, and I was looking for suggestions, and the good dealers will say, well, what kind of sound are you looking for? Something soft and smooth and tubey, and I mean tubey is kind of a word that gets used to excess. Or do you want someone that's dynamic and detailed? So, yeah, it's really kind of a loaded question. It's just a matter of preference. And again, for me, the audiophile pressings, I mean, yeah, they're a little more pricey, but you're getting hopefully a good clean record, and you're not paying $300, $600, $700 for a record based on somebody else's subjective opinion. So that's just my take on Better Records. I can't fault them for their business model. There's a lot of people that slam them. There's a very contentious debate on Analog Planet with Michael Fremer, and Michael Fremer, to his credit, he did his own shootout between a audiophile pressing and one of Tom Port's records, and in the end, the audiophile pressing won out. But again, they sound different. It's a matter of preference, and it just goes to show that one person's opinion is different from another. Maybe someday I'll pick something up just out of curiosity, but at the prices he's charging, I'd rather get 10, 20 different records than just one record that I know already pretty well, if that makes any sense. But do any of you guys have experience with Better Records? I'm curious to see if anyone has picked up a record from them. I mean, they give you 100% money back guarantee if you're not happy, but I'm just curious. What do you guys think? Shoot me a comment down below. I'd like to hear what other people think. And Rockchica, thank you for the question. It was definitely a good one, and I'm happy to entertain my response on it anyway. So have a good evening.